You know why your mixes suck? You adding way too many plugins and processing before the first foundational step of the mix. Leveling and panning. You need to take it easy. You level and pan first, it gets you halfway there. Let me show you how. Greatness game. Greatness game. Greatness game. What's good, Greatness Gang? It's King Greatness, and we back with another episode of King of the Mix, where I'm here to help you conquer all your issues as a beginner, mixer, producer, and artist. And today we're going to be discussing the importance of leveling and panning the mix first. You need to make that your first step. So let's get straight into the session. Okay, so I have some drums, bass, and guitar here, and we're just going to start leveling first. And the reason why you want to start leveling first, because it gets you halfway through your mix. A lot of people overthink things and complicate things, or started adding processing first, and you just end up with a mess and wasting a lot of time. So let's just start bringing up the drums first. You could start with anything first, but I prefer the drums since the drums creates the groove of the song. So I'm going to be using my controller to pull things up, but on the screen you can see the sliders move upward. So I'm going to start with the kick and go from there. And I have multiple kicks on this song. I'm going to the snare next. And as you can see, the song has multiple snares. And you just pull everything up to your liking or what the song calls for. I'm going to pull up some snares louder than others to see like what sounds best as the primary snare. I like snare 1 and 2 as the loudest snare so far. That sounds pretty fine to me. It doesn't have to be perfect when you first start the leveling. You just want to get a good starting level and just go from there. You can always go back and tweak it later, but you don't really want to overthink it and waste time. I'm going to pull a snare group down some. I'm going to bring in a hi-hat now. You can hear that the hi-hat is right down the middle. So we're not gonna pan it right now. We're gonna worry about that later. And I'm just flicking back and forth between the playlists and the mixer so I can see where we at in the track. And we're gonna bring up the tom. I'm gonna just slide up all the toms to about the same level. Let's bring in the first tambourine. We're gonna move over to the second tambourine now. Usually you want your like secondary percussive instruments like tambourines and shakers and stuff like that not as loud as like the main stuff like the kick, snare, and hi-hat. But at the end of the day, there's no rules and it's whatever the song calls for. Get some shake in there. All right, now we're gonna bring in the overheads and room to like really give the drum some body. You add the room in there and get it nice and full. Let's bring up the cymbals. Okay, and let's bring in crush. It's like a parallel of all the drums. This is like really gonna help it cut through the mix. Okay, we got a good level so far. So now you're gonna bring it back to the beginning, and we're gonna start on the panning. So when you panning the drums, no, we're gonna go back and finish bringing in everything else first, and then we're gonna do panning. I don't want you to get confused. So next, let's just bring in the bass. We have a bass and a bass amp. The bass by itself is pretty good, but the amp is gonna help it cut through. We got the bass at a good level right there. Nice balance with the drums. Let's go over to the guitars. And we have a lot of guitars. We don't have to bring in all of them, but just to get a good reference for you. And just like with the drums, when we have multiple kicks and snares, I'm going to see which guitars sound better as the primary guitars. Okay, we got a good balance for the guitars. So let's start panning. And we can start panning the drums first. We're gonna mute everything else. And let's just start getting a good balance for the drums. Let me just loop a section that's pretty busy. And I got a reference here. When you panning, you could just like Google drum pan guide or like drummer perspective panning, and a picture like this will pop up. And it will help you like figure out where to place things. If you want to place it like you're an actual drummer, or if you want to place it from the audience perspective. And as you can see on this picture, they also have it for other instruments like piano, guitar, stuff like that. So, and you can also just do it the way that you want. Like there's no rules. There's no rules, but there are like guides, and certain elements should stay center as far as like low end instruments. So for the kicks, we're gonna leave those in the middle. So we're just gonna go to the snare, and since I have everything as far as the snare is routed into a bus, into a group, I don't have to pan all of these individually. I could just pan the whole group. So we're just going to take it slightly to the left. We got it about 20% pan to the left. And if we go back to our guide, they have the snare about 15-20% to the right from the audience perspective. So I guess I went the drummer's perspective. So now I'm moving over to the hi-hat. With your hi-hat, I'm gonna make my hi-hat a little bit past the snare. And one thing I want you to notice as I'm panning, it starts to declutter the mix. Like everything is not centered, and it's not going to be blocking or occupying certain frequencies that needs that center space, like bass and vocals, so those elements could sit well in the mix. And go over to the toms. My pan is about 25% right. I got the cymbals. Let's pan the cymbals opposite of the hi-hat. We got the hi-hat on the left side, so let's put the cymbals on the right side. About 30%. You got the tambourines. You can put these far out, left or right, doesn't really matter. I'll put them out to the left. And one thing, when you pan them really far left or right, you would notice that that element will kind of stand out more, get a little louder, so you could just bring it down some a little bit. And we're gonna go 50% on the tams. Okay, we got a good pan and balance for the drums. And as you know, the bass, it just stays centered. So we're just gonna cut it back on. We don't need to pan that. And you can hear the bass is sitting much better because you don't have a lot of stuff sitting on top of it. So let's just get straight to the guitars. And you can look at this. You can look at this guide for the guitars. You got your lead guitars about 50% left. You got your rhythm guitar about pan hard left 100%. So You can do it on either side, whatever you want, but it's just a guide for you. We're gonna pan these high guitars hard left and right. I'm gonna start with these. I'm gonna go with the middle guitar, pan at 50% left. Yeah, it sounds on the right. I like it better on the right. I'm gonna pull the entire guitar bus down because I told you as you pan, some stuff gets louder. Got the low guitar, we're gonna pan at 50% left. We got this other high guitar sounds. Go hard left. For the distorted guitar, we can go hard right. And so as you're listening, just like listen to understand how everything is occupying its own frequency zone better now. Like certain mid-range elements, like the guitars, are sitting better. The bass is sitting perfectly in the middle with the kick drums. And the secondary percussive instruments like the tams, the shakers, and like the overheads and cymbals. It's kind of out of the way of that low end. So just listen for that. And as you can hear right there, it sounds like I'm like halfway there. So EQ and compression choices like that, it will be less complicated. Like once you get your mix at a good starting point like that. So let's give one last listen. And when you got a good solid level like this, when you're choosing your EQ, you will know how much to roll off, how much to boost, because you'll know how much each instrument is occupying in those frequency zones. You gotta keep it simple. So, thank you for joining me on another episode of King of the Mix.